We are now on page 21 of your working file, looking at the subject of drawing tools. Now the reason we are having this lesson is so that I can demonstrate for you quickly some of the common ways we can utilize all of the drawing tools. So from this point in time, after this lesson, we will jump into starting a business card project, and we will actually start using tools, drawing, creating colors, and all that sort of thing. The thing that I want you to see here is that the process of drawing an object from any one of these tools can be utilized in the same fashion. Now I will show you that as we go on. The first thing I want to do is quickly show you how you can drag each one of these menus out onto the screen. You can see right here I have picked the point in the toolbar that we are working with, which of these four here, so notice each one has a little arrow. Little triangle, we have talked about this earlier on, but if you click on that little arrow, you will notice a little dotted line on top there. You simply click anywhere of that double line and you can drag that set of tools out onto your working area. Now don't forget that if you're in an earlier version, it might look slightly different. It might have, like for example, double line on the in here or something, but the principles are all very much the same. So I am just going to quickly drag all of these sets of tools out here so that we can see them, and I will get you to do the same thing once you finish watching this video as well. So I will just pop that there. Now I want you to notice if I click on a tool, so I clicked that one there, notice that tool becomes highlighted over here on the toolbar. Again, if I click here, that one becomes highlighted. I might click the spiral tool, so the spiral tool appears and becomes highlighted on the toolbar. The same principle applies from the flyout. Go to the flyout, select one of the tools, and that tool will appear and be highlighted, so you always know what tool you have selected by looking at the toolbar. The next thing I want you to see is that the property bar that we have along here, and I think this is the occasional do called on the wrong name, this is the standard toolbar sitting above, and this is the property bar that you can see here. Whenever you select a tool, you'll notice that the properties for that tool appear up here on the property bar, as you can see. So every tool has a different set of properties. For example, right here we will see the star tool. You can set the number of points beside the outline fitness, etc. When it comes to a shape, somewhat select basic shapes, while I can choose them from all the different types of shapes on the property bar. So the point is, when you select one of these tools, always look on the property bar for properties about that tool. The next thing I want you to know is that these three keyboard shortcuts, similar to what we've seen already, apply to every one of these tools, and I have depicted what each one of them does here. So let's quickly work through them, starting with number 1, which basically is constraint control. So if I click, this is why I have put this little star here for you, so that you have a point of starting. Whenever you select a tool and you click, the first place you click is called the origins, the starting point. So I am going to click, and always remember, once you have clicked, hold your left mouse button down. Now as you can see, my origin remains fixed. No matter where I put my mouse, the origin is fixed. Now remember, this is the same for every one of those tools, okay? So my origin is fixed. If I now put my finger on the control key, watch what happens. Finger on control, all of a sudden my rectangle becomes a perfect square. Now if I can go to any one of the 4 potential quadrants of that square, you can see my original starting point with our genetic changes. But I am always creating a perfect square. That's what control will do. Release your mouse and you will see the final object. Now the reason why that object is blue, my square is blue, is because in the previous lesson, if you recall, I clicked the color blue. So I am going to delete that. Again, common to every one of these tools, if you click on a color first, so I click the blue, it comes up and it says changing fill properties when nothing is selected. Well, in other words, no object will modify the attributes of the tools when creating a new object, and it's asking me, do I want this to be applied to graphics? Which I, of course, all these objects redraw on screen. What about artistic text and paragraph text? Don't worry about those. For now, we are simply going to select graphic. However, if you are working in CorelDRAW X6, you have a number of other options as well that work in the exact same way. Simply select one of those options, such as artistic media, meaning when you use an artistic media tool, the default color will be that color we've chosen. Well, for now, we are simply going to choose graphic and click OK. Now, if I were to select it, say the color red, same applies. Click OK. When I release, I have red. If I delete that, what I am going to do for the purpose of this exercise is I am going to click this X. Now that's what we call the no color wilt. It has no color. So the same thing will apply. Click that, click OK. Now when I click and drag, finger on Control key, there is no color inside of that. And for right now, that's the way I would like to work. All right, let me pick a different shape. This time I am going to go with polygon. Up on the property bar, the polygon has 5 sides. I am going to click in here. Now the interesting thing is it doesn't look like the origin is part of the polygon, but if you actually were to draw a square around that polygon, the starting point is actually there. Now the starting point of the Argent will be the same. I have my finger on the control now, no matter what, and really, if I spring it right back, and you can't see that is the starting point, can you? So finger on control, and that host can create a perfect polygon. One more shape. We will go to the star shaped by click and drag. Now I can make that star non-perfect, but if I want it to be perfect, finger on control, and I create a perfect star shape every time. What about shift? What does that do? If I click again in here, right, remember that's my origin, and I put my finger on the shift key, the origin now becomes the center of the object. Okay, so now I've created a center origin to my object. Finger on control and shift, and look at that, I can resize to perfect star from the center. Always release your mouse first and then let go of the keyboard shortcuts, okay? Well, that applies to every single shape. So we've covered all 3. Control gives me finger on control, a perfect circle, perfect shape. Finger on shift resizes from the center, and the last one here, control and shift, is a perfect shape from the center. Look at that. Well, what I'd like for you to go ahead and do now is to simply drag all of the sets of tools out onto your working area. Go through each tool if you like. Some of them do work a little different to others. If you get confused, don't worry. The point is to click in here and try all the keyboard shortcuts. If you want to try some colors, click first 2 colors to fill the object and go from there. One last thing I'll show you quickly. Select the Call Out shape. This is rather interesting. If I click in here, a call out, you know, is bit like an arrow or a box pointing to a particular point. It's very clever how this is being designed. Finger on control, and yes, I get perfect call out. Finger on shift, and look what happens. Isn't that interesting? My call out now has the arrow part of it in the center. So just keep that in mind if you see that. That is normal for call out shape, okay? Using finger on shift. So have a play with all those, see how you go, and we are about to start our project.